Good evening, family. You've tuned in again to another episode, another version of The Journey 2020. And our slogan is, the journey is from me to you and you to me. And the me includes my intrepid co-host.
Intrepid. I've been called Trepid twice in 2 weeks, so must be a good thing. Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Morris. Welcome to the Journey 2020. We have a good show for you today. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Dr. Robinson, and I reminded him through all the shows that we've done, this is about our 38th show, that he never talked about a program that they offer that I think would be beneficial to everyone in the Central Florida area. So we're going to give him an opportunity to talk about that. And Dr. Robinson, won't you bless us with the information that that the people should know about?
And what Charles was talking about, family, as our clinical and community services. As most of you know that have tuned in before, that my background is as a clinical psychologist. And we have a for-profit clinical service that we try to reach out to the community. And because we need to pay the rent, we charge for that. But the other thing that we do is that we try to do an outreach to the community. And we're doing that in two ways. One is that through a church-based service that is sponsored at the Episcopal Church of St. John the Baptist, that's downtown, right in our African American neighborhood in Orlando. We are able to offer a comprehensive mental health, counseling, and therapy service. And although we do, for those individuals who can't afford it, that we do ask them to contribute to the service, but we also provide a no-cost service to those who can't afford it. Now, I know that many of you listening out there have said, well, you know, I don't need that because, you know, I've got church, or I'm not crazy, and it's only crazy folks that need counseling or psychological services. And I would say to you that no, the people that we work with are just like you and me. Now, some of you may look at me and say, well, to be a psychologist, he's got to be a little crazy. But I would say to you that, you know, with the work that I do and the ability to share some of the thoughts and the kind of guidance to other individuals, that we've been able to work literally some miracles. Aha! And I see our guest is arrived tonight, and Charles is miking her up. But before we get to our guests, I want to just continue a little bit while they're arranging themselves. And just to tell you, if you're interested in the service, wherever you are, that you can reach us by calling area code 407-297-1185. And if we can't provide the service, we'll make the effort to get you to wherever you need to. I know we have some international audience members, and again, we can't guarantee for those of you who are out of the country that, you know, we'll be able to get you to a counseling or a therapy service, but we'll do our darndest. And so the main thing, though, I want to stress is that we are too precious as children, you know, of God, of individuals who are struggling to make things better for ourselves and our families, to let mental health issues tear us down and to keep us down. So again, I would say to you, give us a call. We also have a phone number for our show, that if you have some thoughts that you want to share with us, and tonight the topic is going to be a hot topic, and I think that you may want to call in. So I'm going to ask Charles if he has the number handy to share it.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, I do. And then the thing is, I was telling Dr. Robinson that I don't want to butcher your name, so I'm going to make sure that you. Hold on, wait. Hold on, there you go. Okay. All right. You're up now. So I want to make sure that because I don't want to butcher your name.
Okay.
So give us the correct pronunciation of your name.
My name is Adele Monplaisir.
Okay, now see, you have to slow down. You have to slow down and break that down in syllables for me.
Okay, my first name is Adele. Adele. And my last name is Monplaisir.
Oh, I love that last name. Mon plaisir.
Monplaisir means my pleasure.
Yes. Okay.
Well, of course.
Very nice.
What else could it be?
Okay.
But first of all, I want to thank her because last minute she agreed to come on the show today, and I was telling Dr. Robinson about you.
Oh, wow.
And so he was like, who is this person?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we definitely gonna have to get her on the show.
Oh yeah.
And it's almost like wow, because when I heard her talking, because we talked about so many things,
Absolutely.
and it's always stimulating when there are a few women that's been on the show,
right.
And when they talk, when they actually get it, it's like wow, it's like they do exist.
Exactly.
We do.
Because you run into so many women, and not that you have to agree on everything. That's not what I'm talking about. But when you understand there is a difference, when you run into somebody who understand that the world is not about them,
I agree.
it's a wonderful thing.
Exactly.
It's a wonderful thing. So with that,
and I have to add, Charles, and I'd have to say we didn't plan it to have the extraordinary women that we've had on the program, but each time that we've had and we've had some extraordinary men, but I have to say that the women that we've had on our program have all been extraordinary in their own unique ways, and realizing their place in life, their place in the world, and in the relationships that they have.
Right.
And I have to say it's been a real pleasure to have had those individuals, those women on, and to Miss Monplaisir.
I
just
very
love
nice,
that.
Very nice.
I just love that pronunciation.
One of the only people who pronounces that so eloquently. Thank you.
Oh my goodness! Because it is truly a pleasure.
Yes.
To be able to have someone like you on the show, really, it really is an honor.
Thank you.
And with that may be the calmest moment of our show tonight, because I'm going to let Charles introduce our topic. Go ahead.
Hold on, but
Interesting.
First, I want you for everyone to kind of, so you can introduce yourself. So give them a little background about you.
Okay. Well, my name is Adele Monplaisir, but for most, I go by Adele, which is a nickname.
Okay.
I'm originally from New York, but parentage is from Martinique and St. Lucia, and I have obviously family in Panama. I have to represent for them as well.
All right. Okay.
A Creole, French, Caribbean background, more of a holistic background. I am a practitioner of naturopathic medicine.
Okay.
I am a metaphysician. Mostly, I would say, in the realms of many of the other metaphysicians, I'm a novice. I've been partaking in the holistic field for quite some time, over 20 years. And I think what led me to, coming from island people, they were basically very meek, but very holistic. And even in their living in the States, where it's a little more metropolitan, more fast food oriented, I felt like they always kept the family grounded in their natural roots and their island roots, and I think that kind of propelled me forward. And just as a child, it was something I was always interested in, and I'm a practitioner of also a vegetarian vegan lifestyle, mostly raw based.
Okay.
And I've found that along that path, that it has propelled me forward to further have the discussion about health and nutrition as where it relates to your patterns of thinking and mindset. And I think it affects all aspects of your life, your relationships with self first and relationships with others. I feel like a lot of times in certain communities that may be more urban based, I feel like it's really harnessed our communities because our nutritional base is not what it would have been if in our natural habitats where we originally came from. So moving forward, I've made it a point to share the knowledge that I've collected over the years, and also I think if you know more, it's only right to share that knowledge, especially with our young people who don't have that as readily available. Even with YouTube, we have people coming out, but I want them to get the appropriate knowledge, and coming from a person who's just normal that they may see every day. I could be their aunt, I could be their mother, I could be their sister. I want them to see someone whom looks like me, who they can relate to, and is living a healthy lifestyle.
Okay, that's so critical. And what caught my attention as you talked about nutrition having an impact on a relationship to self and to others.
Absolutely.
And just talk about that a little bit. How do you see nutrition affecting the individual's relationship to themselves?
Okay, well, if we talk about love of self, and I think that's the promotion that they tell us to from a child, they always say, well, love yourself first. And in a lot of Christian beliefs and Buddhist beliefs and so on, it's always talking about first temple. And I find that what happens is that if we're disconnected from our self, as far as holistically, when I say holistically, I'm saying eating things that make you feel good on the inside as well as make you illuminate on the outside. And I feel like if we eat things that are healthy, when I say healthy, a lot of people get a little nervous because health has been equated with things that don't taste very good. But I'm letting you know that that is not the case. That is something that's been indoctrinated in us.
Okay.
So first temple, taking care of self, eating well, eating things that are whole grain, things that are naturally you would pick out of nature, green leaves, fruit, berries, nuts. That's the way our ancestors naturally lived, and I believe if we add that into our daily lifestyle in a more progressive way, we would have a better nutritional balance in our lives, and that would help us to be healthier on the inside, and that would illuminate on the outside.
Okay. One of the things, and I was smiling as you were talking about whole foods and natural foods, and et cetera. And one of the things I remember growing up was my father saying, well, I don't eat all that rabbit food. Okay. and I think that was part of early on, how many of us thought of, green leafy vegetables, that kind of thing.
Yes, yes.
And how do we get past that? And I guess I would say, how did you get past that?
Well, we have to remember who we are and how we came to this part of the world. And if we understand that, just like when you go, let's say we go to the pet shop and we get ourselves a guinea pig, the first thing that they give you is what that guinea pig eats. And they give you the bag, and the guinea pig is happy because that's what the guinea pig is adjusted to eating, and that is part of its natural eating habits, is eating whatever grain or whatever, carrots or what have you. But that's what the guinea pig naturally eats. A lot of us were extradited from Africa, and we did not get our food sources that our ancestors would have naturally eaten. So we adopted to a foreign system and a foreign nutritional system that had a lot of impact on the unhealthiness of our natural bodies. To say the least, everybody's different, and I think we should accept that. No one's above or below, but every person of every ethnicity has a specific food that is good for them, and some that can be toxic for them. And let's say if we talk about people from West Africa, many of us are mixed with the people of West Africa. I mean, they eat the indigenous food would be yams, which we do see here, but we don't do potatoes because potatoes are a starch, a deep starch, and starch for us as people of color, also Latinos, certain Latinos who are also mixed with African, it causes stiffening and arthritis and things of that nature. But to someone who's non-melanated, someone who's a different complexion and comes from a different part of the world, maybe the mountains. The potato does not atrophy their body as it does to the melanated person, because we come from a part of the world where yams were indigenous to us, but potatoes were not. They're a totally different thing, and starches are a stiffening. You know, just like, remember mothers used to iron with starch? Remember that?
Yeah.
And what did the starch do to those shirts?
Okay, yeah, stiffened it.
It stiffened it.
Now,
Yes.
one thing I'm going to give you a little challenge.
Yes.
Okay? and that is one of the foods both in West Africa
Yes.
and also in the Caribbean
Yes.
Tends to be cassava.
Cassava, which is a type of starch potato.
Right.
But cassava was not necessarily indigenous to there. Many of the Europeans had brought some of the seeds from other places, and I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe cassava is not the type of cassava that's growing now. We have different types of genomes that different, you know, there's different potatoes, the different kinds of yams.
Right.
The type of cassava that has been brought to those areas, I believe, might have been genetically modified, and that's another conversation we need to have. If it's been genetically modified, your body doesn't recognize it, therefore it doesn't know how to process or disperse of it. So a lot of times you'll see if someone eats something that's not natural or has been modified in some way. And again, this goes back to, we are not sure of some of the indigenous things that were there because there was colonization in Africa for many, many years. And with the colonization, they brought seeds that were from other parts of different countries. Okay.
So part of the thing that may be a challenge for us is really researching those foods that are the natural foods from our areas of origin, if you will.
Absolutely, but we have some phenomenal researchers such as Dr. Sebi, who's located in Honduras, who originally worked. He's worked with a lot of the celebrities, Michael Jackson, Jordan, Lisa Left Eye Lopez, who passed away near his facility at one point. But he's done a lot of the research based on the genetic foods that are more that are more digestible by us, and he's done a massive amount of research over a long period of time, where he's found things that are indigenous, and also has recreated some heirloom seeds to grow things that would be more naturopathic, more natural for our bodies. So there are some phenomenal people out there who've done the research, and if we look at there's websites to Dr. Sebi, I'm not quite sure, and to other Dr. Africa, who's also from New York, who was my professor's friend. There's also Queen Afua, there's Dr. Brookman. There's quite a few people who've done this research.
You know what I would love after the show, if you would share some of those resources.
Absolutely, I have some reference books as well.
Great, and because our audience, I have to say, tends to be the inquisitive minds.
Absolutely.
And so I think following up, with some of that is
Absolutely.
there. One of the things that I want to share is that we had another nutritionist on our show.
Yes.
And her influence on me was that I went ahead and did the Master Cleanse.
Oh, nice.
And I had not had any intention, so I'm going to see what developed from this show, and what you may influence me to increase, my eating natural foods, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. And what I'm here to do is just to bring about the knowledge, but I do want people to always know that it has to resonate with you, because we are mixed with so many different people, and what works for me may not work for you. So I always say your best research is on yourself. And I always suggest, and I just came off of an 18-day fast. I'm a fasting fan. I do green fasting, green juice fasting, which is juicing with kale, collards, some apples in there, some celery and things like that, to flush my system and detoxify myself. And then I ask people after that, after you fast for 24 hours would be great for the average person, because fasting can be, it's a mind thing.
Right.
You have to acclimate, your mind has to acclimate to not eating, because we've been indoctrinated to eating.
When I started the Master Cleanse, which was 10 days, and many people looked at me and said, "Uh-oh, he's lost it."
Well, you found it, actually.
Exactly. but what also encouraged me is that I had a co-crazy person, that was Charles,
That's
along.
Good.
And I figured that if Charles, I could at least do half of that.
Absolutely.
So, but it turned out that I was able to hang in there,
Good.
do the 10 days, etc. So now you're mentioning 18 days.
What? Yeah, but
Okay.
there's people doing 60 days, 90 days. I mean,
Okay.
but what it is that once you break that psychological mind, crazy. I call it the mind crazy because we've been indoctrinated that we have to eat to get nutrition, and also that we're consistently always putting in. We're never detoxing because we're always putting in processed foods that are toxic, parasites, and our body's always going through a constant, breaking down, doing this.
Right.
When you do your fast, if you notice after your third day, what you might have noticed is a clearing of your mind, clarity, any addictions that you might have had. Mine, I will admit, is coffee once in a while.
Oh, okay.
And fast for me is a wonderful detoxer. But what you'll notice after you...
Carrot cake for me.
Oh, carrot cake. Oh, I love carrot cake. What you'll find after your third day is once the clarity comes in and you have a clear mind, your body follows suit. And you find that fasting after the third to fifth day is quite easy. And if I didn't have any events to go to or any social, because it can be a social eating is a social, kind of thing. But if I didn't have those activities to do that I felt a need to engage with social eating, I could fast literally for probably 90 days unbothered by that. And it's just because my body feels probably better fasting than ever in my life.
Amazing.
It's closer to what we probably were when we were born. Perfect.
Well, I've got to tell you, in terms of social eating, one of my challenges, when I was fasting, I had to go to a conference. And I had wondered how I was going to manage.
Yes.
And what I did was I brought, my little lemonade drink along.
Nice.
And of course with the Master Cleanse, it's mostly liquid.
Yes, absolutely.
And as people were noshing away and doing their thing, I was comfortably conversing with them, sipping on my little juice, etc. Folks were kind of interested in what I was doing, and one other person that was there said, that doesn't seem half bad. And supposedly was going to go on a fast afterwards themselves.
Interesting.
So sometimes, we get influenced by the social environment that we're in, but also the fascinating thing I found, we can influence our social environment.
Absolutely. You become a torch
exactly.
for others.
One of the things, though, that I wanted to do is to talk about the topic that Charles was hinting at.
Sure, Charles has an interesting topic to talk
and
about.
as I said, when Charles told me what the topic was, I said, oh yeah, we definitely got to have this sister on.
Okay.
So Charles, go ahead.
Well, one of the things, she kind of briefly, and it's funny because I thought she was going to go there for a minute, but she didn't. But we have talked about so many things. And one of the things, what I told her was when I videotaped her on another show, she was talking about weaves and one of the problems that we're having. And so I just had to put that on Facebook.
Okay.
And I was telling her, I said, what you told me, I put on Facebook, and I had one response. And the only response was this girl said, that's why I don't put that crap in my head in the first place. But you would think, based on what I said, be very careful because I understand that a lot of weaves are coming from dead people. And it is causing a fungus.
Absolutely.
Okay? And so you need to do some research on where where your weave is coming from. Right? That was the only response I got from those sisters out there.
Wow.
Nobody said anything. And so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
That there was no nothing.
Yeah.
But more importantly, one of the things that she also said that I didn't know, and she was talking about the curl, as we call it, nappy hair. And the benefit of it, why it's that way, and the energy that comes from that we have no idea. So I will let her address that right off the bat.
I'm so happy to have this topic discussed. I think this is like the cat out of the bag. This is the skeleton out of the closet. We have an epidemic of self-loathing amongst our women that is carried on from post-traumatic stress that comes with, slavery in itself. And that loathing is expressed on television. It's expressed in school. It's expressed everywhere. Yeah. And what I wanted to bring up that topic is, number one, let's talk about hair in itself. Every person has hair a certain way for a certain benefit. Just like certain animals, a panther's black and lives in a jungle, but why it's so dark like that is so it's unseen, so that at night when it's hunting, it is able to stomp or pounce on its prey without having any notable vision for that animal to see it. So that is a benefit to that animal to look that way and to have that genetic makeup. And the same is for any person who's living on this planet. If you are living somewhere where it's higher up in the mountains and the air is very thin, your nose should be a little thinner, because that air is a little different, and it can cause, if you have, if you ever been a person of color and gone hiking in mountains, you almost get a little inebriated and off kilter. It's because that you're not indigenous from that area. Also, straight hair that is very straight, that is long, that grows longer, is also for warmth. And if you notice that the European, who many of us are mixed with, has longer hair and hair all over their body, that keeps them warm. That is what it is. Also, their endocrine system is different than ours. They also don't get cold as easily. They have a nervous system that runs on the inside, and ours is dual, runs on the outside and inside. So we get cold a lot quicker. We're different, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful thing. But when it comes to hair, our hair being coily, a lot of us didn't, indigenously, we come from a lot of places on the earth, but Africa is not the only place that were people of color. There were people of color in the United States that were living here who were indigenous, what we call aborigines, that look like us. We had people living in Australia that were aborigines that look like us. We have Eskimos who were also living in cold areas who were melanated who look like us. So let's clear that up.
Now, are you sure that the brothers didn't get over here to these various spots? Because we tend to travel all over pretty quickly.
We were here, and that's another conversation we should have in another show, is that there's a lot of brothers and sisters now in Congress working on their sovereignty, because a lot of the slave trafficking was not notably correct in the numbers. We seem to have found some information, and I want to make sure I say this is not tangible yet, but we found some information stating that a lot of the people here already were of Afrocentric looking, Negroid looking, and that when they enslaved the people here, they were already here. And some slavery obviously was brought over, but there's some discrepancy as far as the numbers, and why it was stated in the history books as so was because they didn't want people to be able to claim land. So I don't want to get it. That's a long.
So if I happen to be here and back in the 1600s, and I look like a brother, and the European came and said, okay, you look like one of those black folks, so I'm claiming you, as even as a formerly free man, there would be really no recourse.
Well, if we look at this, gets a little touchy, because a lot of the documentation that we're getting from the Europeans has been doctored, just like many of the historian books, and a lot of the pictures of the pre-Native Americans looked very much like the Negro that is located in Central Africa. So I don't want to this gets touchy, because I want to have more documentation to sit down with you.
We deal with touchy things, on the journey.
And just why I want to say that is because we have no idea who we really are, and when we find out who we are, we'll have so much more self-love. I think we think we're foreign here, and we're not. This is our home just as well as anywhere else. And even if it was a large slave trade, we built this country. And the reason why it's progressing as it is to this day is because of the sweat, tears, and blood that was shed with the people of color that were heinously abused and utilized for that reason to build the United States. So there's a lot of a lot of controversy going on in that realm right now, and there's a lot of young brothers and sisters that are in there right now working to correct some of the non-knowledge and the false history.
Yeah,
and we know with the
okay.
Sphinx and everything, this is something
Right.
that has been done before.
Okay.
But-
Well, go ahead, Charles.
Go ahead. And
Oh,
talk
the hair.
about- no,
Okay.
The hair. And
Okay, the hair.
And the energy.
Okay.
And the energy.
The hair is very important to us. Why it is because we come from hot regions, and what it was is we didn't eat a lot of foods to sustain our life force. What we did is we fed from the sun, almost like a plant. It utilizes that sun and goes through a process of photosynthesis. So what would happen is that those wonderful coils that you see in electronics or in your bed that create energy force, it actually pulled from the energy of the sun and fed us through that via that coil.
Right.
It goes inside of your body, works with your pineal gland, and it helps to illuminate you, but it actually creates a lot of hormones and also creates a nutritional value in your body to be able to nurture your body in times where you were sustaining probably fasting due to lack of maybe game that was around, or being in very hot regions that was sandy and maybe not having enough water resources around. So that heat, that sun fed us. And those coils are highly important for our spirituality, our connection to, if you call that God, God's source, it's a connection to God because it's going up to the heaven. But it's actually a way that kept our body and sustained us in a nurturing, healthy way. And we would regenerate. That's why many people of color don't age as quickly. It helps with the regeneration process because we go through every night, if we go to bed properly and we hydrate, every night at about 8 to, I always say go to bed. No, I don't do this. I'm trying. I'm working on this. But if you go to bed around the time from 8 to 10, you go through a regeneration process. And that's what helps us to maintain our youthful look. We don't age as easily as other people. And that sunlight is very important to those coils. And when women destroy that process, that connection to God, what they're doing is it causes a type of depression, it causes a kind of disconnection to themselves, and what you're finding is that a lot of women of color are suffering from silent depression. And that's where you're seeing the self-loathing, the weaves coming into play. And the weaves is a really big destructive entity in our communities, and I feel like that is not something that we discuss as easily. First of all, the people who come into the community selling the weaves are of other entities, and I'm okay with other vendors coming in, but I feel like we're purchasing hair from other countries that we have no idea where that hair is coming from. And the researchers have found that most of the hair that is being sold in urban communities is being sold, and it's coming from corpses. And when
from dead people.
Absolutely. And because of that, when a body goes through, its process of breaking down, certain fungus is what helps to break down that body, or certain funguses are created during the process of breaking down because ammonia is released. And those funguses, that fungus is actually on the tip, the roots of the hair. And when, the men or the people who go and retrieve that hair, knowing that that's a big business in the United States, they go and they've been robbing graves for a long time now in India, in East Asia, in parts of, there was another part, I think I'll remember, but what they found is that they were grave robbing and they were taking the women's hair out, and that fungus stays latent, almost like in a dormant state. And as soon as you put that on a nice moist host, it starts to go back through the process that it did originally, and eating away at the lining of your scalp. And as it does that, it causes neurological problems. And what you'll see is women having, we had one of the sisters talking about her hair. She had just gotten braided hair, and her hair started to rash up and her hair started to fall out. And that is one of the, if I had to call that out, I would say it was probably the fungus that had to do with that. And again, a lot of that hair that they're selling in urban communities, because of the communities that do the least amount of research about where they're getting their products from, and it's inexpensive. The hair is sold a lot cheaper as opposed to hair that's coming from,
from a reputable source.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, as black folks, we're getting ripped off, even in trying to beautify, even though it may be a false sense, of beauty, but getting ripped off even at that. And it sounds like it's a similar process where in our urban communities that we get the worst processed food, the most fast foods, quote unquote, the foods that have often a lot of preservatives, and chemicals in it. So even with the hair that the sisters are trying to beautify with, that is also a source of, it sounds like disease, and problems.
Well, this all comes from self-love. We are so eager to go outside of self, to seek for something to illuminate ourselves. And if we went within, as fasting would do, then it would just naturally, you would illuminate, and you would need to seek out. You would naturally know, I don't want that food. And if you don't want the food, and enough people say, I don't want that food unless it's healthy and natural in my community, so I don't want to shop here, then you would make a say in who's in your community and who's not. Same with hair. If you keep going without and going to other things outside of yourself to create some form of beauty, which you are the most beautiful creature on earth, because you are the original mother. And if you knew that about yourself, you would not reach outside and give any platform to any outer entities in your communities that are utilizing that platform to the depreciation of our people. You would no longer be able and would think that's okay.
Now, the other thing that I just wanted to ask you, and let Charles in for a little bit, is not only, one of the things that surprised me, that being short of hearing myself, that I didn't realize how expensive the woven hair is.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous that the amount of, I've seen women go and purchase hair before they go and purchase diapers. I've seen that, and that saddens me. And it's not a judgment. It saddens me to feel how sad that woman feels, that self-loathing, that I see this beautiful queen doing that to herself and not being able to extend to even her own child love because she has none for herself. And that bothers me.
Yeah, of course, because again, as you were saying, that that woman is the mother, not only of that child, of civilization.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And she is a beautiful creature in her natural realm. And if women knew, if they knew where they came from, if they understood the way that their bodies were made for a specific reason to be always out in the sun. We tend to avoid the sun too as people of color, and that's actually something that feeds us. We need that vitamin, we get the vitamin D from that, but that also feeds us nutritionally, because if you ever notice, you're less hungry in the summer than you are in the winter. It's because you're getting all that sunshine and you don't realize it's feeding you.
Interesting.
It's feeding you. And if we stopped, if we get into perms too, perms is another form of, they did an autopsy on a couple of women of color. I think this was at one of the black universities. I don't know which one. I can get that information to you. And they did autopsies on women of color that obviously had straightened hair, and they found a slime over their brains.
Oh my.
And that comes from perming your hair, consistent perming your hair, because what you're doing is you're softening. It's a chemical.
Yeah.
And this is the same reason why babies, you don't put things on their hair that is too hard, because they still have that, that open skull here. But if you consistently put a chemical that eats away, because remember, to straighten your hair, it has to do a chemical process. There's a physiological process it goes through, and our scalp is very permeable, very permeable. I mean, it's the largest organ on our body is our skin.
Okay.
So you're putting a chemical, and it's sitting there for a while, and it's almost like putting acid on your head.
On your head.
And they're doing this every 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
Consistently for the duration of their lives, and it's depreciating their mental state of being, their spiritual state of being, and this is probably why the relationships in our society are depreciating at a rapid rate.
Okay. All right.
No,
Go ahead, Charles.
Sitting here, there's so much that you're saying, and I want to ask you from what you do. For me, I think it's very difficult for a lot of us to comprehend this whole conversation from just understanding that it's. I can remember Pastor Jenkins telling me a long time ago. That's my pastor, and I heard him talk about it before, about how God gave us dominion over earth.
Mm-hmm.
But now that food has dominion over us, the television,
Interesting. Yeah.
food, sports,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, for whatever reason that we have lost touch with the things that you're talking about,
Absolutely.
let alone even understand it for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the minute you start talking about food, you better get out of my face.
Right. Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
But not really understanding you are what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't. And then to talk about it from where she's coming from, to be connected, because you're not connected. Because if you are connected, you want to hear more.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
because now you're so involved into the world, and
Mm-hmm.
you see the world the way the world see the world. You can't hear right now what's being said to you.
Mm.
But from a clinical standpoint, you know what is being said.
Mm-hmm.
But also from the standpoint of what she was really trying to say about them not loving themselves.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I've always said that it's always been very hard for me to take a woman serious who wears a weave. Now that's a personal thing
Mm-hmm.
for me,
Mm-hmm.
simply because I've always looked at it as you not really liking yourself.
Right.
You know, maybe you don't even know it. Okay, that's my own thing. But also from the standpoint that you don't like your lips, you don't like the color of your skin, you don't like your hair, or whatever it is that you have, you know, what they have told you.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's in you from the standpoint of how, when you look in the mirror, then the other part of it, 9 out of 10 weaves look like weaves anyway, so I really don't get it.
Right.
And I don't get it that way. But
Yeah.
and this is and I'm not trying to put it down, but when I see the weave, I go, that looks like a weave. It looks nothing like hair. That's the
yeah.
part that I don't get. It looks like a weave. And I'm going, I don't get it. But that's just me. But I think it's sad in what she's saying is that the beauty that you are, you don't see it.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me. You know, because you're beautiful the way that you are. Because when you talk about bad hair, it'd be like, what does that mean, bad hair?
There's no such thing.
You know,
Right,
right? You know, when you
exactly.
try to tell them,
no
and
such
then
thing.
you get it more from black people than you get it from anybody else. You know, in your bad hair.
Right.
And so, but from a clinical standpoint, and what has been done to us, I'd like for you to address that as well. You know,
Well, you know, I think you know, Sister Ida
Etero.
Ida
Yes.
is right on point, because whether from a holistic, nutritional and naturopathic point of view, the essential thing is how women, and particularly our black women, tend to undervalue their own natural physical beauty, psychological beauty, you know, and spiritual beauty. And often it is so underappreciated by themselves first. And one of the things that clinically, Charles, as you were just mentioning, you know, many women that I've encountered in clinical practice will say, well, you know, I'm not sure that, quote unquote, my man loves me. And the problem that I've had to deal with is to say, well, you know, before you can truly appreciate, you know, how that man loves you, or maybe doesn't, you've got to be able to figure out, do you really love yourself?
That's
Okay.
the first sign of love.
And so, and one of the things that I want to also say is that I love to see sisters who are willing to experiment, you know, in looking in their own unique way. Because as an African people, you know, we have a way of making something out of nothing.
We're creative.
And exactly, and I love to look at how our black women will create, you know, their own unique style.
We set the trend from all of the world.
There you go.
Okay.
And so I have nothing wrong with a sister who's trying something different. But what I do say is, just as you emphasize research, to take a look at is the way that you are treating your body, you know, your hair, your skin. Is it adorning and adding to your beauty, or is it actually deteriorating
Absolutely.
and taking away?
Absolutely.
And so many sisters never take a look at that. And I want to say, from your point of view, you know, as a woman,
Yes.
how, you know, how do women assure that they're enhancing, you know, their beauty?
We may not see the value in ourselves, but everybody else does. The cosmetic industry mimics everything about us. From bigger lips, bigger hips, curlier hair, bigger buttocks, bigger chest. Those are all aspects of us.
Okay.
Going out in the sun, getting tans, that we are being mimicked in the drove. And it's kind of batty how everyone else is mimicking us, but we don't see the appreciation and the love that we should exhibit about ourselves through the reflection of the world, mimicking, you know, when you mimic, when someone mimics you, it's the strongest form of flattery. When someone follows what you do. I mean, we're creative people, we're beautiful people, but just they don't even see that outer reflection showing everyone wanting to have those wonderful attributes that come to them naturally, that they were born with.
How do we positively enhance that beauty?
Well, this is where we have to start with nutrition. And I always, people are like, why do you have to go there? Because if your mind is not right, nothing else will follow suit. So if you're indoctrinated and you're doped up on sugar and processed foods and you know, depreciated meats and, you know, and parasites, there's not much focus you can do, and you're always going to come from a depreciated value of yourself because you're putting chemicals in you, causing all kinds of psychological displacement of yourself. So if, number one, if we can get some, and I always say the greens because it's so easy, a salad is the easiest thing to do, just throw it in there. And I always say, if you don't want to change anything else, add a salad. Just add a salad.
Just add
the salad in there.
Okay.
Just to get that chlorophyll, which helps to filter out all the chemicals in your body. Number one.
Because you know, I know. In fact, I had a conversation this afternoon with a sister who I had indicated that you were going to be on.
Yeah.
Actually, wasn't so much focused on you, but we decided that one of our staff members was going to provide lunch from a vegan restaurant.
Oh, I love it!
Okay,
Yay.
and
I'm a fan.
And the sister, who will go unnamed, but I know she's probably watching tonight, you know, said, "Well, listen, I can't deal with that. You know, it just doesn't taste right."
Okay.
And we had gotten, I think it was the vegetarian General Tso's chicken meal.
Okay.
And so she took a sniff of it, and she said, "It just don't smell right."
Okay.
You know, and so I had said to her, I said, "Well, listen, if you don't like it, I'll go ahead and pay for your lunch, etc."
Absolutely.
So she said, "Listen, I need some meat. I need my smothered pork chop, etc."
Okay.
So how do you overcome those kind of attitudes or?
Well, the first thing is I don't overcome anything.
Okay.
What I want to do is add to the person's knowledge about the foods that they're consuming,
Okay.
and let them make an educated decision after that. If they knew every time that they were eating a meat source, which is probably not coming from the healthiest meat source. A lot of their meat sources are coming from factories where 50 million birds are put together in one source with a glue that is like made of some cancerogen that is bonding the meat to look like what you think is meat.
So those chicken nuggets are...
well, the chicken nuggets are ground up of every part of dead chickens, the beak to so on. And remember, birds in themselves are highly parasitic. Worms and... there's an infestation of worms that are in them, and eggs that are laid in that meat source, of whatever. And chicken McNuggets in itself has been processed. It's been ground down with every part of the chicken and all different chickens. It used to be you went to the market and you bought one chicken, killed one chicken. That chicken was eaten that night or the night after, and that was good.
Right.
It tasted a lot different than what you're eating now. So if you tell someone and give them some information about what they're consuming, then it brings up questions. Okay? So you talk about perhaps what that meat is. And a lot of people in other communities, the Muslim community, are big on not eating pork. But I let people know that pork and chicken are in the same realms of unhygienic animals, meaning that they both eat their own excrement, which is number one, and they're highly parasitic. And even cooked under the highest temperature, a lot of these parasites are geared to survive that. And if their offspring, the egg, is very, very durable. And if you see some of the studies with some of the parasites in certain other countries where they don't have a good medical system, and you see what's actually in the bodies of people, worms that are growing or living or eating away at your organs. A lot of people who have arthritis are parasitic infested. And if I ask someone who has arthritis, I ask, what do you eat daily? Well, I have bacon in the morning, a sausage with eggs, you know, probably steeped in grease, you know, some sort of margarine.
Oh no, you mean I'm going to have to give up my bacon?
Well, yeah. Well, I don't want to tell you what you have to give up. I can tell you what you can add to your daily nutrition.
So I can have a little bit of my bacon, but make sure I add some good food to it.
I always say, if you're going to eat something that you know could be highly toxic for you, why not get the best of the bad? Instead of going and getting, I don't know what kind of bacon they have now, Oscar, there's different brands.
Right, okay.
Why not go and get something that doesn't have any phosphates, doesn't have any chemicals, is not being cured? Anything that says it's cured, you should wonder why that word is even being said about that particular food. Something cured would make me a little, I'd be curious to know why something has to be cured. Uncured just is a lessened process of processing of that meat, and is less of a chemical processing of that particular meat. And I would say, if you're going to do that, I never want to encourage someone to all stop what they're doing, but I'd like to say, why not, if you're going to do something that you know may be harmful to your body, go and get bacon that's a little healthier, maybe turkey bacon that's less processed, uncured. Maybe you'll pay maybe 10 cents more per pound, but you'll add maybe 5 years to your life at the end. You know, go and do that.
That's an important consideration. You know, I could give up bacon for 5 more years.
I mean, bacon can be also, I'm a huge raw foodist mimicker, and I can mimic anything as a vegetarian and vegan. And if you tasted anything that I would consider to be like bacon in a vegetarian form, you would find it just as appealing as what you're eating, if not more. And it's a state of mind.
Charles, we're going to have to go to her house for one of our next shows. Exactly. Because if I can have some good vegan bacon, then my life is happy.
Well, see, that's, I mean, Pam is the same.
Yes.
Same way. I mean, every time I say, well, I don't eat that much meat. I mean, well, I don't eat meat anyway. But like I said, and I've been waiting on this now for about like 2 years. I've been saying, Pam, I want a raw food pizza. And she's been making this raw food pizza now for 2 years.
And she hasn't given you any.
Well, now that she's got married, I don't even hear from her anymore. So
someone else is eating that raw food pizza.
I'm not going to ever get my raw
food pizza. Exactly. Okay.
But anything that, like she said, well, I can make that.
Everything is processed, but if you think about it, all food is processed. So it could be mimicked because it's not real. It's not really like the real food that it came from anyway. It's gone through a chemical process, and if it's gone through that, you can mimic it. You can mimic it. Chicken McNuggets I serve for my little girls. You would never know. I've had people come over my house. I don't tell them. That's why I say I'm not stopping anyone. But what I try to do is just show them something different. And if it is something that resonates in them, they will try it. I remember my mother saying things, and 10 years later, I'm doing it. Because maybe it didn't resonate at the time because it's not where my mindset was. But I bet you it stayed in the archives, and when it was applicable to me later in life, I definitely utilized it. So you give them the information and see what they do. But what I tell people all the time is parasites are the reason why our communities are highly toxic and why our children cannot sit still in class. Dairy is another one that is a high toxin.
That's really interesting. I wonder if you touch on that aspect of why our children are so hyperactive and get diagnosed as ADHD so easily in school.
We have a couple of different issues here. We have a school system that is getting paid, and pharmaceuticals getting paid a crap load of money on every time they diagnose and they give away that medication. So they are getting, that doctor who's medicating that child is getting a little side pocket of money for doing that. For a pharmaceutical, that's his incentive for doing it. So we have that. Then we have parents who are sometimes on Section 8 or having assistance, and they get more money for the child if the child is diagnosed with any sort of sociological or pathological, or you know, some sort of deficiency in their thinking ability or their, you know. So we have those.
That's one of the things. I think I mentioned, Charles, one time that a lady told me that that she was getting a crazy check. You know, for
that is so sad that she had a name for it. Now that's when you know it's bad. You know, a crazy check. I'm gonna share that. I'm gonna share that on another show.
Exactly.
Crazy check.
Right.
That's insanity in itself.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
But she didn't blink. You know, in describing it.
That's sad.
And it was for a youngster that was, you know, had supposedly. Was diagnosed with ADHD.
Okay, ADHD is some quackadoodle term that they've created for children that don't want to sit sedentary in a classroom for 8 hours. And when we have adults who don't want to sit down, I don't want to sit down for 3 hours, let alone 8 hours, and be have attention on something that is unappealing or not giving me stimulus back and forth. That's not natural to any child. So please, these people should stop utilizing a term that's been made up to really sedate our children. It is, I don't want to get into the school system, but that is something that parents are doing illegally to get funds for. Now, ADHD also with children who are not able to sit still for long periods of time, we have a couple things. They've been over-chemicalized, eating too much sugar, too many starches, and also not getting enough nutrition. So their bodies are batty. If you're melanated and you have any form of melanation, and I talk to the Latina communities too, because a lot of our Latinas are dark or come from mostly Afrocentric background. You know, I don't care how fair they are, that is still running through their genealogy, and they suffer from a lot of the same ailments that we do. But what's happening is that our mothers are not engaging in preparing breakfasts anymore. And I don't want to hear this complaint from mothers that I don't have the time because I have to go to work. There's no time in peeling a banana and cutting it. There's no time in putting fresh strawberries on a dish with maybe something like, you know, preparing an egg the night before, like a hard-boiled egg, free-range egg, which I always agree with. There's nothing in preparing a child to, you know, with a yogurt that has some photobiotics that you can have with some fruit sliced on the side, or some granola on the dish with some fresh strawberries and some almond milk. There's no preparation in that. So I don't want to hear the excuse from mothers that they don't have time to create healthy nutrition for their children.
But, you know, and I would agree with that. What I hear a lot is that some of those healthier foods are more costly.
Okay, so as a weed.
You know. Okay. Well. Again, we dealt with the system with the weed. Okay.
So as a weed.
Okay.
Priorities.
But there are some mothers, and the reason I want you to talk to that is that there's some mothers who are working hard, 2 jobs, the whole deal.
I get it.
And have, you know, a number of kids, and are saying, you know, I really want my kids to eat healthy.
Okay.
But you know, when I go to get that almond milk. You know, it's way more expensive. 40 cents more. You know, or much more than that.
Okay. Actually, I want you to save that thought.
Okay.
Because we're actually out of time.
Oh my goodness!
Okay.
Wow.
But, you know, because I definitely would like to invite her back.
Yeah.
And
well, we didn't even get a chance to hit on the main topic.
Right.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah, the main topic, which is, you know,
You want to tell me now, right?
Well, remember when we were talking about how I was saying that when I talk to a lot of my girlfriends that it's unnatural.
Yes.
It's unnatural to, let's just say, want to be with one person.
Okay, monogamy is not a natural system.
Right.
I will just put it out there.
Right.
That is not a natural system for female or males.
Right.
That is a westernized, colonized state of being, and what it's a form of slavery.
Right.
So we can, you know.
Okay. So
that's for you women too. It's not natural.
Okay.
Right.
So well, what we're going to do, since we're pretty well out of time, that's a good. What do they call it on the
teaser?
Yeah, teaser.
On the next one.
Okay. That we definitely will have to discuss that, because not only is it just a teaser, But for a good part of our population, our African American population, it is a serious question, a serious issue, both in terms of expectations,
Oh,
you
yes,
know,
yes.
of having someone or someones, you know, in your life,
Absolutely.
of what to expect from the other person,
Absolutely.
and as we know, there have been mythical tales about what a sister has done to a brother who, you know, may have quote unquote strayed, you know, and vice versa.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
so we need to define what is realistic,
Absolutely.
what is natural, and what can we gear ourselves to or aim ourselves towards in having a mutually satisfactory relationship.
I agree.
Okay,
We will do that.
Absolutely.
and folks, we will see you next week. And as we say, the journey is from me to you and from you to me. Come journey with us next week. Take care.
Thank you.